session on day 2. I've got a great panel here of locally based leaders. And I'm going to, rather than me trying to read out their LinkedIn biographies, which obviously I've read, but Tomaso, why don't you introduce yourself and we just go down the panel and everyone just gives us 60 seconds about who you are and what you do.
That's it. Thank you, Ronit. I was not prepared, but so I'm Tomaso. Nice to meet you all. I'm the CEO at Talabat, a food delivery company and quick commerce company. It's been around the region for the last 19 years. Not many one knows, not really a startup. We've been around for quite a long time. I've been here for 4 years almost. And prior to that, I was the CEO for food delivery at Grab in Singapore. And before that, I was at Uber for 5 years, since 2012. Before in venture capital, had my own company at some point. It's been in tech my entire life, and super excited about it, and still super energetic about it.
So lots of supers there already for our Super App panel. Faraz?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having us. Great to be here. My name is Faraz. I'm the CEO at Noon. I've been in e-commerce in the region for about 11 years. Noon's been live for just north of 5 years. Before that, I was a co-founder at Namshi, which is a fashion e-commerce platform. Suffice it to say that I've been selling shoes to people in the region for the last 10 years. So excited to be here. The space is changing, so Noon's also evolved. We moved over from pure commerce to services, and we're very excited for what's coming, and excited to discuss with this panel as well.
Thanks, Ronit. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Joe. I lead corporate development at Majid Futtaim. For any one of you who lives in Dubai, you should know us. You're probably a customer. For anyone who doesn't live in the region, we're a lifestyle conglomerate, and we're basically in the business of the customer, from everything retail, entertainment, and real estate. What I do for the group is handle all their business development, growth strategy, partnerships, startup collaboration, and more recently, I'm managing a newly established business called Excite Future Solutions, which you can see outside in the booth section. What we do basically is all the digital capabilities that we need as a group, and also we're starting to serve through our digital fintech, analytics, and loyalty capabilities external consumer businesses. And this is where our interest in obviously digital ecosystem platforms and super apps come from.
Great. And if you haven't been to the Excite booth, they have some very good coffee there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should pass by. And popcorn.
So this panel is called Superapps. It's a term we all have come across in the last decade. I guess everyone knows what a super app is, right? Hands up who doesn't know what a super app is. I see people in the audience who are trying to build super apps. Like, I can see my friend there in the corner, Ashish. So, Ashish, what is a super app? Putting him on the spot now. But the second interesting question is, like, what is a super app and why is it relevant for 2023 or 2024 or 2025 in the UAE, in MENA? Because we were discussing it before. The idea of a super app, what is it? No one set out in 2004 to create a super app. It was 2004, Alibaba or Taobao, their e-commerce platform, had a specific problem to solve. They had a very specific problem to solve. That was, they were trying to do e-commerce, and they had a trust problem. Buyers and sellers didn't trust each other. This is the very early days of the internet. And they created an escrow account. Now, for those of us who are in banking, this is like one of the oldest things possible, having an escrow. If you're a lawyer, they created a digital escrow account in 2004. That became Alipay. It became a generalized payment app. It began to sell insurance. And then over time, it began to sell more and more products. But remember the date. It starts in 2004. We didn't even have this. We were talking about AI before we came on stage. AI was in a completely different world in 2004. So today, in 2023, and I'm going to start with Joe, in 2023, why is it still relevant? Why is a super app still relevant? How does it look like? What does it look like, Super App 2.0? And we'll start with Joe, and then we'll work our way down the panel. So the others have a bit of time to think about the answer. But
Sure. So if going back from what you said, right, where we started with the successful super apps in China and some of the emerging markets, less successful in Western world because of how these mobile apps had developed and the services and how they've been, let's say, delivered to customers. But if you were to think about it a bit more holistically, and you look at the big trends that are driving super apps, before we define what would it look like in the future, there are three major trends that are shaping the super app of the future. One is the customer, right? Customer behavior is changing. Customers are demanding more experience, more integration, more seamlessness in how they interact with any player, and obviously more convenience, right? So anyone who holds that relationship with the customer will always have an advantage over any other player that's trying to come into the market. The second trend is around the industries. That we used to think traditionally of industries as retail, entertainment, lifestyle, like these consumer industries. All of these boundaries have been very blurred by digital, right? If you think of the people sitting right on the panel today, if you start in e-commerce and you start expanding into other services, and Faraz has done this, right, from going to grocery, to electronics, to other categories, Talabat has done the same thing. You'll notice very quickly that you can no longer define yourself as a vertical player or as an industry player, but as a platform or ecosystem player. And the third trend is something you mentioned around technology, right? Technology has been evolving for the past years quite quickly, but has exponentially changed in the last year or two, right? And with what artificial intelligence brings to the table is a complete change on how you interact with customers. Either starting with the simple example of how Talabat has been using ChatGPT, and I'm sure you guys have seen the recent news. Probably I'm now taking from what Tomaso was going to say, around how they're using AI for assisting customers on their grocery shopping, to going to another end of the spectrum, how ChatGPT has been including plugins. So today, ChatGPT, on a demo basis in the US, you can go in and order from Instacart or from an Amazon or do any daily activity. So the future, when you look at it this way, is going to be to whoever holds the customer relationship and is able to build scale, and more importantly, whoever can deliver a seamless experience. It could be a simple message, or a virtual assistant, or a voice note, or even eventually probably a thought that you think of, and there is that player that delivers it seamlessly in a very contextual, human-like experience. That's how I see it evolving.
So the customer relationship is still important, like it has been.
It is everything.
And you're providing everything to the customer as the interface, but what's behind how you're creating the ecosystem changes, right?
Absolutely. The channel would change, the technology would change, the integration between the different verticals would change. But what will always hold true is the relationship with the customer from one side, and obviously we're at the FinTech Summit. The payment aspect will never change, because at any point you have to get to that end touch point and you have to execute a payment. So payment, loyalty, personalization, and the customer relationship will never change. Everything else is evolving very quickly.
Got it. Same question to Faraz.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you go to Noon and if you ask anyone on our team if we're building a super app, they'll say no. We don't know what it is. We don't understand it. We're essentially, at the end, I think platforms like ours, if you think super first principles about it, how did we get there? Why did we end up with like this app that has 6 tabs and is trying to do everything? Over time, when you get a lot of customer trust, you build a consumer brand, right? You get a somewhat meaningful customer franchise. I think to founders over here, the really hard thing in new markets, in markets with minuscule TAM, right, compared to like places with larger populations, is that the CAC is super high. The cost of acquisition of a customer is mad high. Yeah, you're talking hundreds of dollars, and that's the real entry barrier to scale. I mean, if you build a truly glorious service, maybe people will come more organically. But we've seen consistently that CAC in our region is very high, but when you build a service that has high population penetration, you kind of realize that you've got this like somewhat like something that resembles a moat, because you've got customers at scale who trust your brand, and then and back to Kushal was talking about the flywheel. You've got a trust customer traction flywheel spinning, and bolting on incremental services to maintain customer interest is actually the next step, or probably the thing that you must do, right? And for us, if we're honest about it, what are we optimizing for? Very blatantly, what we optimize for doorbells. Like how many doorbells are we ringing every day? And sort of the goal is to increase that. And we realize that, at some stage also, and to Joe's point, the infrastructure we have, we're fundamentally a company that moves atoms, right? We have warehouses, we have people, we have bikes, and we have cars. And increasing tenancy on that physical infrastructure, which is the real cost in our business, is the real game, right? As you increase density, the costs go down. And for most businesses, density is the real sort of like driver of efficiency. So here you've got a situation, you've got fixed assets, you've got a customer franchise that has been accrued with like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. To sweat that asset more, you gotta build services that are more relevant to customers. I'm sorry about the long-winded answer, but like that's how we ended up in a situation where we're like, look, we've got a market with low TAM. I think the other thing I wanted to say was, Kunal Shah, he runs Cred, the fintech in India. I heard him say this, and it sort of spoke to me in so many ways. It was that when you have markets with low TAM, right, so that's a proxy for saying if your market is not China or the US, then you'll invariably end up doing many things inside whatever customer franchise you build, because that's how you sweat the asset. And I think that's really somewhat depressingly that's the truth, because you really have to figure out more and more use cases of getting customers to open your app or your platform, and really just do it that way. And lastly, the counter argument to super apps, some of our peers globally talk about this, it was like, the ultimate super app is the App Store. And we have to be aware of that. It's like whatever we do, we'll end up building some kind of a button inside our apps to access some service that has nothing to do with the other service, except for payments and maybe the customer identity. Yeah. So thinking of those two things as infrastructure or raw material is important, because frankly, I don't think there's a lot of friction in iOS or Android where you can just go click another button and you open a service. So yeah, I don't know. Fundamentally, we think that people end up doing these things because they want to sweat the asset more. And as you build more infrastructure, to seek density is probably the primary motivation.
Mm-hmm. So even though you don't set out to build a super app, you kind of end up a little bit super appy, right? Because you're bundling lots of products in because the TAM is small, and we're not even, forget China, we're not even India TAM in the Middle East. So you have to bundle lots, and you have the client. So you don't set out to be a super app, but you kind of become a bit of a super app.
Yeah, I have relationship issues with the term, but we're reconciling with it. I think at the end, I think we're these are mini app stores in some way. I don't know what to call them, but
yeah. We need a new, I think the takeaway of this panel is going to be we need a new word for super app, right? It's super app 2.0 or whatever, right? Tomaso.
First of all, I think it's a big pity that Mudassir is not here, because we had a very nice banter about super apps.
He's the patron saint of super apps in the region.
But so I think
he's here with us in spirit.
He's here with us.
Yeah.
So we come probably from two different school of thoughts there, because as you were saying, super apps started in China to solve specific problems, right? You said the case of Alibaba, Alipay, but same WeChat, right? WeChat was a messaging app like WhatsApp, right? And they started seeing that people were telling each other that they needed to send money to each other, and there was no way to do it, right? And so they created a peer-to-peer way to transfer money, right? And back then there were no, people were not banked, didn't have credit cards and whatever, and so basically the WeChat and Alipay basically became the normal way of paying, and the Chinese population completely skipped credit cards. So there are no credit cards in China, basically, right? And then I think the other problem was in rural China, network connection was very bad, right? So people were not able to download apps and to use the full functionalities, so WeChat decided to say, okay, we launched some mini apps inside the WeChat app. So now you can download a very light version of your app. You don't need big bandwidth, and then you can still enjoy all the features of that app, right? And so that happened, right? So, but WeChat was solving a real consumer problem: access to banks and network connection, right? When you look at what people are doing today when they think about super app, I think they say, okay, I have a bunch of users, I have millions of users on my app, and I might as well sell them something, right? And I might as well start selling things that are completely different from my core business, right? But I ask you, like, if tomorrow Booking.com will start selling food, would you go there? I think I would not, right? Because at the end of the day, the consumer wants real value. So I'm saying, what is the different value that Booking would offer me if they would start to deliver food, right? There's absolutely no synergy in what they do and delivering food, for example, right? So that what we really believe in is that, yes, you have to expand to continue growth at some point, but you have to do it where you provide real value for the customers. And you have to think, what is my right to win in that specific sector, right? So why Talabat should enter groceries, should do quick commerce? What is our right to win versus someone else that is very specialized in doing that, right? So that's why we say, okay, we're never going to do airplane tickets or cleaning your house or things like that, but we will do groceries, for example, because we already have a fleet on the ground that we can leverage. Our customers that order food like convenience, probably they also want to order groceries, right? And we're building our muscles on like making purchases and this kind of stuff, right? So I think the answer to your question is, I think companies should think about how to diversify in the areas where they can provide real value, focusing on what are their core strengths.
Maybe we can sort of drill down a little bit more into what makes a relevant product for each of your brands, each of your companies. So as you're building a collection of either proprietary or third-party services you're offering, how do you decide, I mean, it might be an obvious question, but how do you decide this makes sense? Like if you were in if you were running Booking.com in the region, what would you say? This makes sense, but forget them. Talk about your company and more specifically, money and financial services. We talked about how for Ali in 2004 and WeChat in 2005, it started with money. It started with fulfilling financial services and, Grab, and now with Careem Pay in the region, money seems to be payment seems to be the sticky factor. So talk about two questions. One is, how do you decide what the right sort of adjacent products are? And secondly, what's the role of payments and money in that?
Yeah, I think for the first one, what do we decide is based on what value can we bring as Talabat that no one else can bring, and what right do we have to win there, right? What synergies does it create with our own company, right? And you saw a lot of, for example, in quick commerce, you saw a lot of quick commerce pure play completely going bankrupt, right, or not making it, because it takes a lot of scale, a lot of investments to get to the point where you start breaking even, right? For us, or for example, for Noon, like you already have a fleet on the ground. And that gives a massive advantage, right? That you can leverage, right? In terms of financial services, I think that's a fantastic use case in so many ways, right? So I think Careem launched Careem Pay, and they do remittances for Pakistan, for example. Most of the riders in the region are from Pakistan, and having an efficient way to send their money back home, I think that's a fantastic use case that hits home for them as well, because most of the riders are from Pakistan, right? For us, for example, we launched Buy Now, Pay Later, and you would say, okay, why do I need Buy Now, Pay Later to order food? You would be surprised to see how cyclical the food demand is towards the beginning of the month versus the end of the month when you get your paycheck, right? So Buy Now, Pay Later can a bit kind of normalize the demand and overall generate an uplift in what consumers buy at the end of the day, right? So I think it's really, you have to be true to your core and provide value for your customers. If it's just a service that doesn't provide value that is correlated to your core, I think you have the right, it will be as hard for you to build that for anyone else.
Thank you. For us, same question, please.
Yeah, look, I think I agree with Tomaso. I think for us, we sort of have a suite of financial services. We kind of offer credit cards, Buy Now, Pay Later. We offer long-term installments, and now we're sort of getting into transfers. But I agree. I think if anything you do in the service of the customer to provide more convenience is I think super helpful. I mean, anything that removes friction from a transaction, we found that buy now, pay later has absolutely exploded in our region, right? And multiple factors, because sort of obviously credit is we can get into it, but I think, there's a lot of opportunity to do interesting things in that space. We don't see financial services as an entry point for our app. We see financial services as an enabler for core transactions on our app.
Yeah.
So we're not doing any first-party stuff here. We're working across a series of partnerships of various depth. We work, I think in that sense, we're well and truly a marketplace. All buy now, pay later players are mostly enabled on our platform. But more philosophically, I feel like this is such it's a dense space which needs a lot of expertise, and we lean on the shoulders of giants on this. So I think that's clear. I think on payments particularly, I have a very strong view. I think we're in the very, 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 very early stages of peer-to-peer payments in the region. I'm not FOMOing about it at all. I think when the network infrastructure comes up, when the regulators bring switches that are fast, something like UPI in India, this thing is going to explode, right? And the entry barrier is very, very low. And then again, you'll play this game where, okay, CAC to get a customer to transact is high, and so people with sort of ring-fence customer cohorts or franchises everyone will enter like peer-to-peer payments when it's ready. So he will, we will, he will, right? And that's because that's just what you do. But yeah, unless you've got a natural home in the space, you don't do it. And I think also it's important because a CEO always has two lists. One is a list of things you must do and a list of things you must not do. The second list is more important than the first list, right? And I think for us, we really believe we're a marketplace for these things, and anything that enables our customers is fair game. But with the caveat that peer-to-peer payments is something that I think all of us are going to be in a very big way.
Can we drill down a little bit more into that payment space, into P2P? So is the idea that when we have more of a, whatever, whether it's UPI or something like that, all of you will be basically digital wallets and...
I wouldn't say, UPI fundamentally is not a wallet, right? It's just an entry node to a...
Oh, sure. No, what would you become? As in that, if we had, we have obviously faster payments already in the UAE.
I think,
we're getting a second generation
UAE is
coming
getting
out.
it. UPN is coming, right? So we're in a sandbox. Everyone is in a sandbox for this stuff now. So I feel like in that sense, you become an entry point to, if I want to send money to you, I don't actually need a relationship with Noon. I just need your endpoint, your phone number or whatever it is. And that'll start happening very, very quickly. And we've seen around the world when the regulators enable that sort of a switch, there is no entry barrier to the space. Wallets actually fundamentally stored value accounts lose traction immediately. Consistently, I see we have some operations in India. I go there and I have some money in my Paytm account. Like no merchant actually wants that money. They're like, just UPI.
They just want a direct account-to-account bank.
Account-to-account transfers. So I think that's coming, and that's going to be transformational for our region. And I think we all should get ready for that.
Now, I guess I was thinking also, maybe take the Kareem Pay example, but or others in this market that, we all are banked, right? But a lot of people in the UAE, in Pakistan, in Egypt are not banked, right? So there's a big part of the market that we could maybe have access to, that maybe have prepaid cards or others where even in a UPI-like situation, a digital wallet's not these aren't the highest, obviously, TAM clients, but maybe they're more employees, as you were saying, to the delivery people and so on. But anyhow, I'm going off the point here. I want to get Joe in as well. And the same theme about payments, finance, money. What does that look like in the future for you?
So our starting point in Majid Futtaim is a bit different than the digital nature, because we're already a brick and mortar conglomerate. We're in 16 markets. We already have hundreds of millions of customers who come to our assets on a daily basis, right? And we've always set this vision for ourselves to create great moments for everyone every day. obviously with digital coming in, we had to add the dimension of everywhere. So initially we started by adding digital dimension for every business, starting to leverage analytics, digital to do more personalization. And obviously payment is a key enabler of all of this, right? But then we started looking at our ecosystem in a more holistic manner, right? Because we're all serving the same customer at the end of the day. So how can we collectively go about it, expand the share of access we have to the customer daily life, right? And that is not something we could have done on our own. So we started looking into partnerships because we look at ourselves as an enabling platform. That's what we do in the shopping malls, right? By bringing in tenants and enabling them or suppliers in Carrefour. So by looking at ourselves as a platform business, it became quite important for us to get the right partnerships. We actually have partnered with my fellow panelists at different points in times. And we always look at these strategic partnerships that could help us expand. On the payment front, that's how we look at ourselves. We're a orchestrator and enablers of the latest and greatest of payment that exists out there, right? We have partnerships on the buy now, pay later with the likes of Tabi, where we've seen huge uptake within our ecosystem. We've also, for example, partnered with Visa, Apple, Network International, I2C on a first in the market. It's a virtual digital wallet and virtual card. And it was there because we needed to solve a problem. We were creating a loyalty program for the group, right? Whenever you're within our assets, it's easy. You can do QR code scanning. But whenever you're going to tenant stores, which we don't own and we don't have POS integration to, we needed to find a different solution. So it was a necessity to solve a problem. So we created a wallet that enables us to do real-time payment, earn and burn. And then once you have it, you notice that customers will start asking for more services. And then you start going into what Faraz mentioned in terms of peer-to-peer, right? Remittance, balance checks, PFM, so personal finance management. And you start expanding gradually from there. So it's always connected rather than you saying, I'm in grocery and suddenly I'm going to go expand into, for example, travel. Travel has to be a natural evolution of what that loyalty program needs and what the customer is asking for, and that's how we've approached it.
When we were at your stand a little while ago, you were showing us the Mall of the, was it Mall of the Metaverse or Metaverse of the Mall or something? Yeah. I'd love for each of the panelists to maybe throw out a few anecdotes or stories of interesting things you've recently built, whether it's super app related or not. So maybe start with the Metaverse initiative and chuck in a few others if you like.
So maybe before I explain the Metaverse, I'll tell you what you saw outside, what does it fit into, right? When we started this digital journey for Majid Futtaim 7-8 years ago, given that we're not digital natives, we had to really obviously get the right talent, build the right partnerships, but also experiment quite a bit, right? So we started creating capabilities around analytics, fintech, digital, loyalty, Web3, that we initially used to serve our own businesses. So the set of businesses that Majid Futtaim has. What we did last year, if we carved this out as a separate business, and that's what you saw outside, it's called Excite. The intention of it is not just to serve MAF businesses, but also the startup ecosystem, other consumer businesses. And the idea there is to have a separate business that is able to innovate independent of, let's say, the constraints or the governance of large conglomerates, right? And obviously, one of the initiatives we've done in collaboration with our shopping malls team and our lifestyle team is a Mall of the Metaverse, which is an experiment for now. We've built it on Decentraland. We have all our ecosystem present there from Carrefour.
What is it?
Sorry?
What is it? Why do we need it? Why do you need it? Why do I need it? This Mall of the Metaverse.
Obviously, today, when you look at it from does it create value? Are customers there? No. We actually made the joke on the way in, how many customers are on Decentraland. I told you, if we went in, it's us at that point in time. So it's not that, let's say, adopted yet. But we know that
it's an experiment.
Adoption to become a commodity, you actually have to experiment.
Yeah.
So we wanted first to experiment, to get our people to understand, first our internal team, what is Web3, what is the Metaverse, start engaging with our partners. If you've seen on the Metaverse, we have Samsung there, we have that, the store from MOE on it. So for people to go in, to experiment, to test, and obviously we're going to keep evolving. And will the shape that's going to be adopted 5-10 years from now be what it is today? Probably not. But unless you experiment, you'll never know what it's going to lead to. So that is one example. There are things that we do that are more, let's say, solving immediate problems. But you have to keep always that balance between solving your short-term problems, delivering on your value creation, targets, needs on the short term, while you still leave room for the team to experiment on the long term.
Faraz, is there any one particular
Yeah, I mean,
Experience, product you want to throw out there?
this is the boring stuff. We're not doing anything as exciting as these guys. So, no, I think fundamentally we're forcing the company to think more as an atoms company and sort of like really want to be a physical infrastructure company. But one thing that I'm sort of excited about, and I think it'll help some of the startups in the audience. The customer acquisition cost in our region is abnormally high. That's a fact, and because audience is so like broken, like you've got, it's so amazing that we have such a diverse cosmopolitan place. It makes marketing a nightmare, what we're doing is sort of, we're booting up Noon Marketing Services, which is sort of an endpoint where folks can sort of enter and sort of really segment audiences well. I mean, both Tomaso and I probably know where everyone in this room lives, which is a good thing and a bad thing. And we're trying to like essentially create a fire hose for people to reach potential customers through our platforms and others, especially in this sort of like cookie-less world, iOS 14, all that stuff. Targeting is mad hard. So some of our best people have been working on creating a fire hose for people to connect with and define audiences and then really reach customers in a cost-effective way. Super boring, but like I think it'll be a useful resource for businesses in the region. I hope you guys use it too. And I think our estimate is that between the top 3 or 4 large consumer platforms, you can cover about 90% of human beings in our region. So the next wave of marketing platforms is going to be somewhat differentiated from the current incumbents, right? So and I hope that we can have a role to play in that space. So I'm excited about that.
I think you'll have every marketing agency sending you a message after this.
Yeah, please.
On your LinkedIn.
Exactly.
So Tomaso, the same question to you. Any one product or service you want to talk about that excites you? So you in the metaverse as well these days? I don't know.
We're not in the metaverse yet, and what I'm excited about is what we launched last week, which is called Talabat AI. Yes, I know, original name.
Sorry, I ruined your surprise.
Yeah, it's okay. But I think what's really funny in tech is that I remember when I was at Uber in 2012, and every startup that was pitching to a venture capital, they would say, "Oh, we have the Uber of this, the Uber of that," and that was how they would pitch, right? So we always go through waves like this, and I think a few years ago was crypto and blockchain, right? So if you didn't have a blockchain company like a few years ago, like no one would invest in you, right? So you're doing, bakery, you have to have the blockchain of pancakes or something like that, right? Otherwise, no one would put money on you, right? And I think we go through these waves, and we always think, okay, this is gonna change the world completely. So if you're not on a blockchain, if you're not in metaverse, if you don't have NFT, we will not hang paint on the wall anymore. You're only gonna have NFTs, right? So if you don't have that, like you're not gonna survive the future somehow, right? And I think the reality is that all these things matter, and I think all these things bring innovation, but innovation happens in a much slower pace than we think, right? And people need to adapt to that, and people need to see the value of that. And I think now with AI, we're going a bit through this period where we're saying, okay, tomorrow, all jobs will be gone because AI is going to replace all of them, right? So all the images will be done by AI, all prompts and whatever. So now there's new jobs, like you have to be expert in prompts, otherwise you will not survive to the digital future, right? So I think what we should focus on, though, is, again, how can we use these technologies to provide value to the customers, right? And I think Talabat AI is what we've been trying to do. We're rolling it out this week on the app, first for the Talabat Pro customers and then for all the others. But the idea is that you have an assistant where you say, I want to cook something. I want to cook lasagna, or I want to cook butter chicken, or whatever it is. And the assistant tells you exactly what are the ingredients, how to cook it, and gives you the full recipe, right? But the cool thing is that after that, it shows you the ingredients, and you can add them directly to your basket and buy them, right? So I think will this be a game changer? Will bring us a lot of revenues? Probably no, right? Probably very few people will use it, like very few people use the metaverse. But I think it's a way to start knowing what customers want. How can we improve their customer experience on the app, and how can we make our lives, like of all of us, better over time, right? So that's why I'm excited about it.
So AI use cases is what you're excited about.
Right now, I'm spending quite some time, but as more for a personal passion, right?
Yeah.
Rather than I think there's like very specific applications. We're experimenting something with pictures, for example, food pictures and all this kind of stuff, right? We're experimenting something with the food descriptions, right? Description of dishes. So I think there's many ways where things can be applied, but yeah. So I think it's very interesting to see what the future would bring.
And if we're doing this panel again in 2025, Tomaso, and same question to everyone, how different does your businesses look, or does it not change that much? I mean, are we in this kind of, we're all talking about change in AI and disruption, are we overdoing this, or actually beyond 25, it does look very different? And this is the last question to wrap up. So give us your future, your future vision in a minute each, please.
Sure. I'll start. First, I hope from a physical point of view, it's not going to change. People will keep going to the mall. They'll keep shopping, they'll keep transacting and getting entertained.
We'll still keep coming to your mall. How's that?
Thank you. I actually want to go back to something Faraz said in his introduction, that the ultimate super app is your actually iPhone screen. Right? Yes, it has been the case till now. I think with what's happening in technology, there's going to be a change that we're going to see very quickly, and hopefully it's going to be there in 2025. What you don't get on your iPhone screen today is a connectivity between the different apps that exist there. So there's no context. It's not a human-like interaction. The way I see digital assets in general, and more specifically super apps evolving, they're going to become more of virtual assistants. So what Tomaso is doing today with that one use case, it's going to become the norm, right? You just need to go out there and talk to it, and it's going to understand. If I'm actually booking a restaurant in Mall of the Emirates, I need a car to get there, right? And if I need a car, and if I'm inviting someone, it needs to send an invite, and then it needs to book me back home, and then it needs to get me the grocery I need. It's going to become way more intuitive than what we know right now, and I think technology is taking us there. Yes, there have been hypes around blockchain and then Web3 and now AI, but the way I've been seeing things evolving, I think AI will play a big role in how they're going to shape the future digital assets that are going to become more human-centric, more intuitive, more engaging, and more contextual.
So basically, AI-based, AI-driven virtual assistants going to make our lives easier, and it's going to be embedded in your platforms, in your businesses. Are there any final words you want to throw out there for us or Tomaso before you wrap up?
I'm incredibly optimistic. I think our missions are endlessly interesting, and I think with sort of and AI is a huge sort of step change in efficiency for all of us, right? So, I mean, agree with with Tomaso and Joe that the user interface will change for sure. And you might not even be engaging with it, right? Peak AI is like it just does it for you. You don't even know. It just shows up on your doorstep. So, but I think also there are like dramatic sort of improvements already underway in productivity, right? So it takes me like 30 minutes to set up a development environment. Now it used to take me like 3 days. And also just in how we run infrastructure and we run the world. I mean, what an amazing thing. The world is going to be so much better and more exciting. I really think that efficiency and productivity go up. And yeah, we also have more fun and we have our mind blown more often. Like the crazy serotonin release of like these experiences that Tomaso shipped and I'm sure all of us will. So yeah, excited for the future. I think it'll be a nice.
Hopefully, a lot of the boring jobs just get really easy, like reading a 50-page legal document. AI can do that like in a few seconds, right?
It makes you productive, right? So and you're sort of, you moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, I do think on this that we will work less. I do believe that, right? So
you think we'll work less?
I think we will work less, right? Because I think a lot of jobs will be simplified a lot.
True.
I don't think people will get out of jobs,
It hasn't happened
right?
so far. Like all those productivity tools that Microsoft gave us, we just ended up working longer hours, right?
I mean,
that
that
could
could
be
be
all that
yes,
previous generation.
Yes, could be either way, right?
Yeah.
So, but maybe
Because your clients will have these AI tools. They'll be bombarding you
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true. But as I was saying, I think
So the future is we work less, we spend more time on the beach or playing paddle or whatever, and
hopefully
ordering from your services.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But and again, I think for consumer side, yes, there's going to be change. It's going to be probably slower than what we anticipate, than what we anticipate today. But I think what you will see in 3-4 years from now is like apps like Az or Noon or Kareem, etc. I think we will all have a stronger ecosystem, right? So and we will start exploring areas that are kind of close to our core. Each one of us probably will go into different ways a bit, and become strong in that area, right?
Great.
And for you could be, I don't know, supply chain if you're super whatever. For us could be, I don't know, more on subscriptions or quick commerce or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, that's what you see.
Right. So the future is optimistic. We're going to have lots of AI-powered virtual assistants. We're going to work less and enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and a big hand for Ronit, Tomaso, Faraz, and Joe. Thank